There's flexibility in the program in that students who work at different paces and different levels are really accommodated for. For example, you might have one student who speeds right through the curriculum, but they're never at a point where there's nothing for them to do. The capacity matrices for the entire year have been written and have been viewed by all the guides, so we all know what's within them and what's going on.
This is our capacity matrix. It's called Around the World in 14 Days, and it has lots of elements on it. Red is French, green is English or SOS, blue is maths and science, purple is inner strand, and orange is personal strand.
Each of the words that we think or the terms that we think are important that students understand or that may require a resource, we then highlight those words. So students are able to look at their capacity matrix, see that there's a highlighted term and go over to their resource matrix.
This is the resource matrix for Around the World in 14 Days, and this is in capacity matrix. If, for instance, I was looking at D4B, demonstrate your detailed knowledge of where French-speaking countries are, and I would look it up on here on the resource matrix, D4B, and it would say Atlas, and you'd look in the resource box 1.
So that allows students to be able to go and gain resources for the things that they need help with, rather than just asking what the word is. They can go and find it on their own. So it's encouraging them to be very self-directed.
When you first get your capacity matrix, you pick what elements you want to put into your project and you do what we call a mind map. It allows you to put all your ideas down onto paper, and that sort of becomes the skeleton of your project. You then try to add in as many elements as you can to the project so that you can have one big project with all these different elements from different subjects tied in.
Individual students or groups of students may wish to cover a combination of elements completely different from one to the other. So for example, we've had some groups perform, so actually do a play in front of the whole centre. One example is we also had a survivor contest.
So in the end we designed 6 challenges, each that involved a different capacity. For example, the first one was we showed 20 French-speaking countries. We had to learn what countries are French-speaking countries as part of the capacity matrix. So we learnt them and we picked 20 of them and put them up on the screen, and the contestants had to remember as many as they could.
If you complete an element, you tick off what level you think you're at. So there's I have heard about this, or I've done work with this, or there's I can do or describe this with help. So if you think you're in either of those levels, you can tick them off. And there's I can do or describe this on my own. I can explain and teach this to others. I have used this knowledge in a different situation or task. Or there's I know when and where to do or to use this without help.
We covered D4B, which is demonstrate your detailed knowledge of French-speaking countries. We covered D9B, which is construct a map that includes all the BOLTS conventions. And the last one was demonstrate that you've used ICT in a safe and efficient manner.
The expected level is I can do or describe this on my own. If you wanted to, you could go higher than that level. Or if you're only at the second level, you have to do that project again and just try and get to the expected level.
The students have a certain number of skills that they learn each month, and the stronger student might skip through 3, 4, 5 skills because they know how to do those, whereas the weaker student can spend more time consolidating, getting the basic skills. Each student works differently each day.
Once you've completed one project like Survivor that had 9 elements in it, you can start working particularly on the white tasks. You try to knock them off at the same time and after you've finished that.
Directed tasks, white tasks are ones which, it may be a worksheet, it might be an internet site, it might be an activity they need to do, and then we have the coloured task, which are things where they're applying it, so they're broadening and deepening their knowledge.
I did 2 sort of big projects that I worked on and put in different capacities, and then a lot of the stuff I just did individually because it was really our first capacity matrix, so we're just easing into it.
One area of interest or one capacity matrix is meant for each month, so it's a monthly topic.
When we have a new project, when we're starting at a new area of interest, it feels funny because I feel as excited as the kids because I see the elements and then I think, oh, what are the guys going to come up with now? So I'm just as excited as them when they get their new matrix.
In a traditional classroom, students are sometimes under pressure because the teacher expects everyone to be at the same level. So, for example, in a maths or in a French classroom, everyone has to learn verbs at the same time, and if someone doesn't understand it, then the teacher has to explain it all over again while everyone else is listening to the same explanation until everyone gets it. I think that the beauty of the Learning Centre is that students can pace their own learning. They can learn what they need to learn and when. For example, a student who hasn't got a very good basis in angles can work at basic exercises and activities, do learning objects and activities on the laptop, whereas a student who does have the basic concepts covered can go more in depth and further their learning. They're not stuck doing the same exercises from the book. They can actually extend that to a deeper level.
We assess basically on making sure that students have covered the expected level.
Once you have completed an element on the capacity matrix, you go through it with your teacher and she will put a 1 next to the activity that you have completed. For example, for French-speaking countries, my teacher thinks that I have completed it, so she put a 1 next to it. If your teacher thinks that you have attempted it but not completed it, she will or he will then shade it, so it just shows that you have attempted but not completed. The aim is to get all of the elements marked off, and then that goes on to your teacher's record.
So we have the essential learning elements at the top, and then we decide whether we give a student a 1. Basically what a 1 means is that the student's at a level that's expected at this time in the year. So at semester 2, we think that is that year 7 student at a level that we're happy with and that they're happy with. So it's a way of us keeping a track of the areas that they're working in so that we can make sure that they're getting an all-round, so they're learning all areas rather than concentrating on the ones that they enjoy.
They work through the matrices at their pace with our assistants. Now, that student who works a bit quicker than the other one, who finishes that few weeks earlier, has access then to the next capacity matrices. So that student isn't waiting and wasting time, waiting for the next piece of work. Those students working at the slightly slower pace, well, we're able to spend more time one-on-one with them.
If you don't finish an activity by the time that the capacity matrix is over, you can finish the activities from the previous capacity matrix while you're doing like my born identity. So, for example, the timeline, if I didn't do that, I could do that while I'm doing my born identity.